Hello and welcome to this episode of SG24 Tactical Reviews. Today I'm going to be talking about the Hakkotsu Hades Aero Airsoft Mortar. Now this mortar is a little bit interesting because mortars are kind of a tricky concept when you come to Airsoft. You got to find a way to do it cheaply and relatively safely. There's really not too many options out there that aren't homemade, so this is one of the few commercial mortars you can get. The mortar works on CO2 and water, so what you do is you fill the mortar up with water up to these marks, and how much you fill it depends on what kind of range and performance you want to get. Then you put a cap here on the end, one of these little rubber deals. You unscrew this. So this is where you fill the mortar from, and once you're done with that, you put a cap on there which fits in those grooves, and then you tighten this down. When you're ready to arm the mortar, you take this, which is your charging device. Inside here fits a CO2 cartridge. So you put a standard CO2 cartridge in here. When you cinch this down, it will penetrate the cartridge and release the seal. And that's your charger. So your mortar is full of water. You take off the end cap, which is much easier said than done. There we go. End cap's made of a rubber material. And see, you've got this little hole there at the tip. You hold this down in there until it makes a seal. It'll make a hissing noise. And then you time it. Generally about 8 seconds or so is what you want to do for mortar. Put your end cap back on. And then your mortar will be primed. The mortar has these fins here on the end, which are spring-loaded and collapse down like this. And then, of course, you get your mortar tube. Mortar tube's pretty standard, just a chunk of plastic tube. Down in the end, there's some razors, like razor blades, mounted on this piece right here. And what you do is, when you have your mortar, and you're here, you get it in position, and then you thrust it down. Those razor blades will cut through the rubber end cap on the mortar, which will release the CO2 and water, sending your mortar launching. Now the mortar tube comes with legs. It's collapsible. And it also has these little hooks on here, which are supposed to be for attaching it to MOLLE. So if you want to carry it on your vest or backpack, you can do that. We tried doing that one time in the field, and these things work okay. But if you're really running around a lot, it can work loose, and the tube can fall off, which is not a good situation. So you can also remove the end cap. And there you'll see those blades. You can replace those blades when they wear out, which is pretty cool. That way you can keep your mortar tube serviceable. The entire kit is what you see here. It's $130. I mean, you can't get it cheaper than that now. When we bought it, it was $130. Most airsoft sites carry it still for about $130, but I've seen it as cheap as like $80 to $90. So it just depends on where you get it from. You get a little packet of spare parts and 3 of these seals. Once you use the seals, they're done. You have to buy more. The spare parts are good because these little fins are just asking for trouble. They get torn off, and they're little springs that hold them in place go flying. So they give you spare parts so you can replace them if they get broken. You can also buy more mortars, more spare parts online now, so you can actually have a rather large arsenal if you want to do so. The kit comes with the 2 mortars though, and the charger. So the mortars are kind of interesting. The big problem with them is it's really important your water to CO2 ratio. If you get that ratio off, the performance is going to suffer. So here's a clip right now of us firing a mortar where the ratio is just about perfect, and we got really good performance. So take a look.
Ready, salvo 2?
Ready, salvo 2.
Ready, fire!
Fire up!
Oh.
Uh-oh.
This one.
That was a nice one. It flew pretty good. But the way they have it set up, you can't really see the water depth when you're actually filling this, especially out in the field, because your markers are on the outside, but this is a really thick plastic and there's not much light that goes through there, so you kind of have to guess how full the water is. And if you get too much water or too much CO2 or too little CO2 or too little water, you get performance kind of like this.
Reload 2. Ready to fire?
Fire in the hole.
Fire.
See, that didn't really work. So I think if you are going to use these, you're going to have to figure out a way to make sure you get the right mixture of water to CO2 for them to perform effectively. The other problem is, you'll notice when we launch them, these things launch with quite a bit of force. So you definitely don't want to be aiming them at someone close, and they come down pretty hard. I mean, they got stuck in the ground when we fired ours. So I'm not sure how you could fire these in-game without guaranteeing someone would get injured by hitting them. I don't know of any teams or games right now that use these, but if there are any out there, I'm curious to see how you add them into your rules to avoid injury, or maybe people don't mind getting bonked in the head by these things. I don't know. But that is the Hakkotsu Hades Arrow mortar system. It's kind of an ingenious idea. I was waiting for someone to come up with a version of it, and although it has some problems, it's definitely a novel idea, and it'll be interesting to see if we get anything else, similar concept in the future, that maybe we'll build on the basic idea here. Alright, I will see you next time on SG24 Tactical Reviews. Alright, fire in the hole!
Ready, salvo 1.
Ready, salvo 2.
Fire.
Fire the hole!
Nice. Had too much water.
Where'd that thing go?
It's in the top of the tree.
You still filming, Ben?
Yep.
Ready, salvo 2.
Ready, salvo 2.
Ready, fire!
Fire the hole!
Oh.
Uh-oh.
This one.
That was a nice one. Fire in the hole!
Fire. What?
Misfire.
Misfire.
Alright, tip it out.
Pull it out.
Okay, very carefully pull it out.
Say goodbye to your hand.
Boom!
Did it actually pop the seal?
It did, but it wasn't out enough.
There wasn't enough of a pressure.
Yeah, okay, that was the bum one, I think.
Is that
Alright,
the one that
grab the
sprayed
next one.
everywhere?
Yeah.
Let's check the seal on the other one to make sure it'll go.
Yeah, that should be enough.
That first one had a bigger bubble though.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was.
I hope so, because it's our last seal.
Yep.
You don't want to extra CO2 it.
Reload 2. Ready to fire?
Fire in the hole.
Fire.